My grandmother, and we all have these grandmothers, often taught me ways to behave, and it ended up in three things. One, and she would say moko, which means grandchild. One, always work hard. Be the first to work and the last to leave. Be there 5 minutes early, leave 5 minutes late. So always work hard. Number two, be nice. Be nice to people because you never know who you are talking to. And the last one she said was be grateful. Be grateful for everything that comes your way because the world is full of people who forget where they were. And so, as a new speaker, I've been an international keynote speaker now for around a dozen years, but as a relatively new speaker, I asked one of my mentors, Mike, what do you think I should do? He said, you need to go to USA, and you need to go to NSA USA. So I ended up in Florida, and I met amazing people like Patricia Fripp, who told me about story and just on a bus trip coached me and taught me amazing things. I met my friend Scott Friedman, who later took me to Malaysia and Asia and introduced me to wonderful people over there. And I actually stayed when I was in Florida with Lou Heckler. And just a wonderful, wonderful man. And you know, one of the things I remember about being in NSA USA was I'm just this new speaker, lost. And this guy comes up to me and he says, you're Nahi from New Zealand, aren't you? I said, yes. And he said, I have something to give you. I would like to give you a pen. And it was a beautiful pen from NSA, USA. It was a convention pen. And he said, this is my only pen, but I'd like to give it to you. That guy was Dr. Rick Goodman. And I never ever imagined that 10 years later, that pen is still in a box I keep in a special place of gratitude for things that have happened in my speaking career. That box is still in that pen, and I never ever imagined that 10 years later, I'd be on a stage in New Zealand, Aotearoa, welcoming Dr. Rick Goodman. He is a thought leader in the world of leadership, has been speaking since 1988 on leadership development and business growth. I think you will figure out where he's from if you haven't already. And we are going to cut to video, but he will speak on transforming, optimizing, and accelerating your business. Please welcome Dr. Rick Goodman.
Dr. Rick Goodman is a speaker, author, and serial entrepreneur who has delivered over 1,000 presentations throughout the world, in addition to creating several multi-million-dollar businesses. Dr. Rick is passionate about sharing his proven success systems on leadership, engagement, and business growth. Please welcome Dr. Rick Goodman.
Oh. There's something that I know about each and every one of you in this room right now, whether I've met you previously or this is the first time that I'm meeting you. What I know about each and every one of you is you've got to have a heart that's this big in order to do the things that you do. See, because we make a difference in people's lives, and we make a difference in people's lives when we connect with them. And there's three simple words that I've learned that will grow your business: transform, optimize, and accelerate. Transform, optimize, and accelerate. Transform your thinking. Optimize your assets. Your assets are every single person in this room. It's the technology in your head. It's your family and friends. Those are all your assets. And when we accelerate our connectivity, we accelerate the speed at which we connect with others and the speed at which we do business, we're going to grow our businesses. For the last 30 years, I've had the opportunity to work with all branches of the armed forces, Olympic athletes, Super Bowl and NBA champions. And I'm going to talk to you today about how you can apply some of these lessons, because the lessons are very simple. Success is only difficult because sometimes we tend to make it a little bit more difficult. And I'm going to tell you, if you start to connect the dots, and I'm going to ask you to do today, is look around the room and connect the dots. My brain immediately goes on connecting dots when people say, do you know this person? Do you know that person? See, what I'd like you to be is that guy or that gal. Now, my kids always say, Dad, you don't want to be that guy. Don't be that guy. You're going to embarrass me. And I say, no. I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that when my friend Andrew or my friend Andy give me a call and they say, Rick, we're coming down to Florida. Do you know this restaurant? Do you know that? Yeah. See, if I could serve them with my skills and my expertise, that's great. But if I can't serve them, what I want to do is share my friends. I want to share my friends because I can't do everything, but I've got a lot of friends that have expertise that can do different things than I can do to help serve my clients. See, you have a customer, and a customer is what I call a financial transaction. They give you money, you get money back from them, you give them services, and it's done. I like to create clients because a client stands for care, protection, and guidance. I'm there to care for them. I want to guide them towards the right solution. I want to make sure to protect them. Isn't that what we want to do for our clients? We want to guide them to the right direction. We want to give them the right information. Well, as I was studying leaders, and over the last 30 years, I've been studying leadership, and there's a whole bunch of really cool things I found out. And I coalesced it into what I call just a little bit of a statement, a little philosophy. And what I decided was leaders motivate and inspire. They relentlessly create the vision and set strategies for action. Their goal is not to develop leaders, not to have developed followers, but to have many leaders. See, our goal to bring a leadership to legacy is to lead. It's to not only lead from taking our children and growing them, but it's to lead others. It's to develop people so we could build that lasting legacy, and that legacy that will go on forever. A number of years ago, I went to my first NSA convention. It was actually the winter workshop in St. Louis, Missouri. And it was the first time I heard about Cavett Robert. And Shirley Taylor spoke about Cavett Robert last night. And we hear about Cavett Robert at every single program that we go to at NSA. And I thought to myself, make the pie bigger. Make the pie bigger. Make the pie bigger. And I said, you know what? The pie is big enough. Let's just share some pie. I mean, really, if I'm sharing pie, I'm sharing my friends. And then I'm doing a better job for my clients. I'm caring for them, I'm protecting them, and I'm guiding them to the right solutions. So as I start to discover sharing my friends and all the amazing people that are here, I found out that where I meet these amazing people is right here at convention. I've met some of the most amazing people. Most of them are in the room. I'd say that 90% of all my friends are speakers. I met Lindsay Adam years ago at the Cigar Peg. He's my Zen master of Australia. I've met Andrew at NSA. I've met Dr. Mahler at NSA. Every single person I could connect, I've really met at NSA. So I start to look back and recognize where my strength is. My strength is in my assets that are in this room right now. This is where I can help more and more people, and this is where you can connect the dots too. See, in the article, what I talked about was the fact that we've got to share some pie because there's power in the pie, but most of us don't want to do that. And at the CSP Summit in November, this was one of the main things that we focused on. The expertise in the room, getting to know the people that are sitting right next to you. Because the person sitting right next to you could be the person that's going to help you in business next. They could also be the person that you're going to have a long-term relationship with. Like Scott Friedman, who comes down to Florida, he gives me a call. Scott's universal. He's all over the place. So you get to reach a lot of people through the people in this room, don't you? I mean, why did we all come here? If you think about why we all came here, didn't we all come here to transform our thinking, to learn some new stuff, to optimize our assets, the things that we know right now, and to accelerate our connectivity? How do we get more business? How do we meet more people? How do we touch more people? That's really why we're here, if you want to just sum it up. See, I'm from New York. We like to keep things simple. I think everything is simple. I don't know how to type. So my first book, I talked in, and I saw the nuance guy out here, Dragon, Naturally Speaking. That was the way I wrote my first book. I knew I could speak pretty quick, but I couldn't type a paragraph if it took me an hour. I never took typing in school. I should have probably focused on typing in Spanish since I do so much work in Argentina. But I know how to ask the proper things. ¿Dónde está el baño? La cuenta, por favor. Señorita, está muy bonita. I could say all these things, but then I'm not grasping the essence of the message. The essence of the message is connection. People want that connection. People want reality, and people want to serve. It's so much better when we're giving, when we're communicating, and when we're connecting with people. Well, I started this small company a number of years ago. I moved down to Florida, and I started this company called Advantage Legal Seminars. And the reason why I did is because I built 13 clinics down there, and there were 900 attorneys referring us business, and I wanted to kind of give them something back. We gave them a great product, and that's why they referred, but what could I give them back? So I decided, you know what? For 20 years, I worked with physicians, helping them to build their practice, hire people, because I was really bad at it at first. So you only learn by failing, right? Well, I decided that I was going to start this company called Advantage Legal Seminars. And we would bring people in, and we would get them approved for credits because they needed to have these credits so they'd lose their license. So we have them come in, and I started my first program was how to build a more productive legal practice. Building businesses is all the same thing. Then I did another program, Winning Strategies for Dealing with Difficult People. And then I did one more, Professionalism and Ethics for Today's Law Practice, and I was done. I'm a doctor. I mean, I treat people. I am not a PhD. I treat people. And sure enough, I said, what am I going to do? And I decided I'm going to call my friends. Who are my friends? My friends are some in the room, and I started a company called Advantage Continuing Education Seminars, and I started to go and share my friends. Some of the faculty you might know Brian Tracy or Randy Gage or Jeffrey Gitomer or Bruce Turkel or Shep Hyken. A lot of these people, almost 90% of them, are speakers in NSA. That's where our connection lies. That's where our strength is. When we learn how to share the people that we work with, we're going to accomplish a lot more. And think about this. Right now, there's a lot. How many new people do we have in the room? First-time people ever at the program. Okay, great. And a lot of times, I remember when I was a first-time person in 1995 in St. Louis, and Mickey Williams was up on stage speaking. And at that time, Mickey's hair wasn't blonde, was it, Lenora? It was brown as could be, and it was up in a bun, and she had these little rubber things. And I thought, wow, these are my people. See, do you know why I come here? There is no place in the world that I could come to find people as crazy as me. I mean, we get each other, don't we? Sometimes our family doesn't even get us. But I know when I come here, I have the ability to connect. And I have the ability to make a difference. And I can go out and promote my friends, just like you can. If you don't have a book right now to start, you know what you can do? You can meet some people here and sell their book in the back of the room. I'm sure they'd be happy to do that. Really, who are you helping? You're helping your client. I'd rather share my friends. I remember when I first started, I sold my first practice, said I'm traveling around the country, I'm going to speak, and my family looked at me and said, who's going to hire you? You're a chiropractor. Well, I've traveled around the world, spoke, and we're doing a Facebook live feed, so hello, family. I am traveling around the world speaking. You don't want anybody to determine your success, do you? See, it's only you that can determine your success. And I got to tell you, this is one of the toughest programs to give. And the reason being is, one, I've never done this program. Two, I'd rather get up and get paid a lot of money because it's easy. I get in, I do my thing, I have fun. See, you are my peers. So I had to put a lot of thought into this. And I have a board of directors. And my board of directors, they're unofficial, but most of them are in NSA. So I called up my chairman of the board, my best friend, Bruce Turkel. And Bruce came over the house, and we were sitting there talking, and I said, you know, I'm racking my brains. I want to give them something that they could apply. How could you apply this lesson? How could you transform your thinking, optimize the assets that are in this room, the people that you know, and accelerate your connectivity to build the business? And he looked right at me and he said, Rick, this is what you do. This is who you are. Just tell your story. So I'm going to share a little bit of the story, and I'd like you to see if you can follow through and just apply it. And how can I use this lesson in my business? How can I apply this? Who do I know that I can connect the dots with to grow my business? See, because everything you need is right here in this room. All the people that you need to support your business, to help you get to where you want to go, are right in this room. You just got to model their behaviors. You know, the wheel's already been invented. I figured out it's a pretty good product. All you got to do is make it a little bit better and improve on that. And that's what we're doing every day here. We're improving on that. But it really starts with your attitude also. Your attitude has got to be one that is amazing. See, because I found out something else. I found out that when we show up, we have got to show up. Nobody cares about the dog eating the cat. You didn't get this done. The kids are fighting. Nobody cares about any of that stuff. They care about when you're on stage that you are giving 1,000%, 150%, no matter what. Things can go wrong in a program. Things can kind of mess up, but we want to make sure to get it right. But it all starts with how we're thinking. I mean, how many of you have ever woken up in the morning and said it's going to be one of those days? Okay? And how many of you had the mom or grandma that said bad things happen in threes? Anybody have that mom or grandma? And you woke up in the morning and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they just kept coming. And you said, see, Andy? I knew it. I was right. I knew it was going to be one of those days. Here's my question. What'd you ever get for being right? I've been right a lot, I think. I haven't gotten anything yet, so if you got something, let me in on this, because I want to get the same stuff too. See, because your mind doesn't know the difference between something actually happening and something imagined vividly in great detail. It's going to make you right. If you don't believe this, if you're in a rush to leave today, how many red lights are you going to hit? Every single one of them. Or how many of you bought a new car in the past or one just recently? And you looked around and what did you notice? The moment you got in that new car, every single person in town was driving that same car. There were hundreds of them on the road, and you said, see, that guy or gal's one smart cookie. Great minds think alike. I made the right call. So I want to tell you something right now. Each and every one of you made the right call by being here. But it's only the right call if you connect. It's only the right call if you take advantage. It's only the right call if you take action steps immediately upon getting home, because you know what? There's a lot of us that attend conventions and conferences, and we take unbelievable notes, all these diligent notes, and we get back and they're still in a notebook on the shelf. It's kind of like my patients. They would say, well, I just bought a brand new exercise bicycle. Well, I know a lot of people that have exercise bicycles in their basement with clothes hanging on them. Because the world is made up of great starters and lousy finishers. So what do we have to do? When we have this momentum, we've got another couple days, it's time to connect. Connect the dots. And don't give to get, because if you give to get, you're even. Give expecting nothing in return. Because the more you give, crazy stuff will happen in your life. But it's all about your attitude. Every day for the last 30 years, I psych myself up. I psych myself up every single morning. Do you know why? Because all the professional sports teams that I've been associated with, they psych themselves up also. We just saw the All Blacks. They do the haka. They're psyching themselves up. So why are we different than the All Blacks? We need to psych ourselves up too. You don't wake up in the morning and say, oh my God, this is a great day. I mean, sometimes things happen. So every day I wake up, I say the same exact thing. I say I'm a healthy, vital, active, happy, and successful human being. I affirm today that all tissues and organs in my body are functioning perfectly, and that's the way it's supposed to be. I am more relaxed than ever before because I choose peaceful, loving thoughts and release my fears, worries, and anxieties. Tension is gone because I'm creating an atmosphere of ease and confidence. My mind is uncluttered because I have set specific goals and plan action steps for accomplishment. I feel better now. Nature uses the food that I eat, the air that I breathe, the water that I drink, and the rest that I get to rebuild, repair, and revitalize me for the future. Radiant energy flows through me. I also affirm today that money is plentiful and an abundant supply, and this money flows freely and constantly into my life as I render loving service to all mankind. What do you say? Oh, I don't have the right microphone. My PowerPoints aren't working. I'm in Southwest Airlines center seat. And we focus on the things that don't make a big difference. See, my attitude had to change at a very young age. I grew up in a house where my dad was going to be a professional athlete. And when he was a kid, my grandparents made him go up to the mountains on a weekend. And he was supposed to be playing baseball in his baseball tournament. He said, no, you're going to come up to upstate New York with us for the weekend. Well, he went upstate New York. He came back home. And then next day, he couldn't get out of bed. He had polio. Some of his friends had the polio that affected you from the neck down, and they had to be in an iron lung, and they didn't live. And my dad had it from the legs down. And 2 days after he got polio, they came out with the vaccine. He was not a happy camper. In fact, he was kind of a bitter person. He lived his sports life through me. I'll never forget, I was laying in my bed, I played ice hockey. I traveled around the country, in fact, around the world playing ice hockey. I played Olympic trials, full scholarship for ice hockey. And at 12 years old, I wanted to be a normal kid. I wanted to hang out with my friends and play stickball and all this stuff. And my dad said, you're going to play. You're going to like it. And he stood by my bed. I'll never forget. And he said, you're going to play, you're going to like it, and that's it. He said, Goodmans don't quit. I know that there are people that have said things to you in your life that have made an impact. You might not have thought it was going to make an impact in the moment, but years later you saw how that lesson came to fruition. See, he had a physical therapist. His physical therapist's name was Joel. And my father, when he was going through physical therapy, was feeling bad for himself. He didn't want to get out of bed. And Joel said, if you can't, then you must. If you must, then you will. If you can't, then you must. If you must, then you will. You're going to get up, you're going to make it happen, you're going to do it. I can, I must, I will. Well, in 1995, I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and his name is Harold Lewis. Now, you might not recognize the name Harold Lewis, but you certainly will recognize the term that he coined. Show me the money. Harold Lewis is a sports agent in the United States. He represents about 175 NFL players. And Harold's daughter and my son went to private school together. Well, in 1995, the Los Angeles Rams decided they were moving to St. Louis, Missouri. I had already sold my first practice, and I was traveling around the country showing doctors on how to build their practice, how to hire people, how to market, because it was something I was really good at, is building big practices. Well, he called me up. He said, Rick, the St. Louis Rams are going to be here. You should go back in the practice. I said, I've already done that before. He said, if you do, I will get you the whole team. Now, my parents told me they were going to send me a whole bunch of patients when I graduated, and they didn't send anybody. See, but this is Harold Lewis. And I thought, this is really cool. My son's 5 years old. He's really going to enjoy this. I'm in. The Rams moved to St. Louis. They lost the first 4 games of the season. Then they lost every single game for the next number of years. They were the worst team in the 1990s. The worst team. My patients would come into the office and they would say, how do you work with these people? How do you get them on the field? They're terrible. Can you do something for them? And I said, I just get them on the field. It's not me. I'm not playing the game. Well, sure enough, they hired this new coach, Dick Vermeil. Dick Vermeil is like the most amazing coach in the world. He is like your all-box coach, Sir Graham. What do you got to do? You keep going on. Why? Because we are professionals. This is what we do. Well, the All Blacks manager said, expect the unexpected and deal with it. Well, Dick Vermeil was the same kind of guy. He went out and got this quarterback named Trent Green from the Kansas City Chiefs. He was going to take us to the promised land. Trent Green went down after the third preseason game. At 6:30 at night, which was the routine, the players would come to my office from Rams Park. My office was right across the street, and they walked in. And I had a whole bunch of patients there until the monsters would come in to the office. And these guys were huge. They would intimidate everybody. See, then Mike Jones came walking in. And Mike Jones was my player. He was the first guy that I met when the Rams moved. And he walked in my office, and he said, "Doc, it's done. We're going to lose again. We've got no shot at this. We just lost our quarterback." And my son was in the room with me. I got to tell you something about people from New York, if you don't know. You could take the New Yorker out of New York, but you can never take the New York out of the New Yorker. It just doesn't happen. We have zero filter. And when we feel something, we say it. We live it. And what happened? He walked in. "Doc, this is it. I'm telling you, it's all over." And something in me snapped. And I said, "Listen to me. If you can't, then you must. If you must, then you will." He looked at me like I was nuts. I said, "If you can't, then you must. If you must, then you will. I can, I must, I will. If you can't come in with a positive attitude, you can't be in my office. This is a place of healing. I've got real patients around here. So you make that decision and you let me know." And I closed the door. My son looked at me like I was completely insane. He said, "Dad, I don't understand. How could you talk to a player like that? You talk to him like he was your kid." I said, "Alex, you know what? Michael plays football. That's his job. I treat people. That's my job. But let me tell you something. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. We are no different." And that was the message I wanted to hear. Well, sure enough, we got this guy named Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner, an Iowa girl. Kurt Warner was stocking cans and stuff in a grocery store. He was stocking shelves. And Dick Vermeil had heard about him. He saw something in this man that he thought was greatness. And what happened was Kurt Warner turned the St. Louis Rams into the greatest show on turf. We went on to win every game by big numbers that season. See, then we were in the Super Bowl. And we're in the Super Bowl against the Tennessee Titans. And the Tennessee Titans had this amazing quarterback. His name was Steve McNair. And what happened was we were winning the game. Tennessee got the football back with 1 minute and 43 seconds left. They marched down the field. They were at the 7-yard line with 7 seconds left in the game. And this is what happened. The football was snapped. Steve McNair dropped back to pass. And he dropped back to pass. And this is what happened. Nothing. So what happened was he dropped back to pass. He rolled back. He throws the ball to Kevin Dyson. Kevin Dyson is running down the field. And on the 1-foot-yard line, Michael Jones wraps around him, drops him down on the 1-foot-yard line to make the #1 call in NFL history known as the tackle. Mike Jones wrapped him up and made Super Bowl history. And there we go. Thanks, guys. And he stopped him right there on the 1-foot-yard line. Well, do you ever wonder what the end of the story is? Well, that year, right after the Rams won, I decided, you know what? It doesn't get any better. It's time for me to get the heck out of St. Louis misery. Truly. Wasn't much there for me. Who was playing double time? Well, sure enough, I moved down to Florida, and my attorney gives me a call one day, and my attorney says to me, you know what? My brother-in-law is an attorney, and he has a sports agency. Could you do me a favor? He's having a golf tournament. Could you invite some of your players? I said, sure, I'll invite Mike. I'll get a bunch of other players to come down. And the day before the tournament, my attorney calls me up. He says, I got to go to the airport and pick up some VIP guy. Now, there's something you need to know about my attorney. He had a sports lobotomy. He knows absolutely nothing about sports. I said, who are you picking up? He said, I got to pick up this guy. His name is Tommy John. I go, you're picking up Tommy John? Are you kidding me? He's the World Series pitcher for the New York Yankees, Cy Young Award winner. I mean, he is like Deshane Warren he's the Deshane Warren bowler. This is who he is. He is the man. I said, you know what? I want to make sure that we're playing together. So it's going to be me, you, Tommy John, and Mike Jones. We're going to play together. We're going to have a good time. Well, we're out there on the golf course, and they're sharing stories and, back and forth sports stories. And sure enough, I find out the end of the story. Tommy John looks at Mike Jones and says, Mike, I need to know one thing. There was 7 seconds left in the game. What was going through your mind? And he said, you see this guy over here? This guy could be the single most annoying person you've ever met from New York. Every time I walked in his office, he said, I can, I must, I will. He said with 7 seconds left when that ball was snapped, all I thought was, I can, I must, I will, and I grabbed on for dear life. You never know when you're going to make an impact as a speaker. You never know what words you're going to say that is going to take somebody from this level and take them to the next level. See, we all have that opportunity. And how many of you, just like me, you heard some great information here, right? You heard Fredrik gave us some excellent information, analyzing all that stuff. I still don't know, how did Michelle Obama get elected prime minister? I must have been out of the country on that one. So we heard great information. I heard Jills talk about making money while he slept. We're a little different, Jills. I like to make money while I'm laying on the beach. That's why I started Advantage Continuing Education Seminars. Simple. You're on the beach, you're sleeping, I'm on the beach. But I had to learn how to communicate more effectively. So how many of you have learned something here at a seminar, and the first thing you thought of, I can't wait to get back and test this out? Anybody like that? You got all this new stuff and test that? Who do you test it out on? You test it out on her. I got it. I don't have a her. So I tested out on my family, my kids. That's my son, Alex, my daughter, Jamie, and my mom, Linda. My son, Alex, is 26 years old. He knows absolutely everything. Just ask him. How many of you got teenagers here? You will make a comeback. Anybody that's stupid overnight, right? Just like me, okay? Well, sure enough, Alex decided he was going to make his way. He wanted to go out to L.A., and he was going to be a manager. Well, you got to be an assistant first. You got to be an intern. You got to do those little things. So he went out there, and he got a job with a company called L.A. Talent. And at first, he was working with great actors like Brad Pitt, Bradley Cooper, Robert De Niro. He's all excited, calling me up every night, telling me who he met. Then they moved him over to kid actors. And then they moved him over to print kid models. And Alex was doing time. How many of you know people that are just doing time? They're just showing up, they're punching the clock, they're not really doing anything, they're doing time. And my son was doing time also because he just wanted to be there for a year so he could add this onto his resume. It would look good. Well, getting back to Alex in a second, my assistant, Shirley, worked with me for 13 years. She helped me, and we built this internet company up where we were making so much money laying on the beach that I would send Shirley on vacations. She was like the guest assistant in my own office. And then my wife, Jackie, she had cancer for 8 out of 10 years we were married. And when she passed, I let Shirley run the business pretty much into the ground as I traveled the world like Cain. And I could tell you there was one situation, though, where somebody in NSA reached out to me and didn't even know at a terrible time in my life, and a lot of us have had those terrible times. And I was in a hotel room in Costa Rica. It looked like apocalypse now kind of thing. And I get this phone call. I pick up the phone. Hey, brother, how you doing? It's Randy Gage. 2 years later, I told Randy, I said, you don't know what state I was in, but you made a big difference in my life. These are all NSA people. Sure enough, Shirley says, well, I said, we got to get a new computer because you got to edit videos. We got to move on. She said, well, I got to do it at my house. I said, no. Well, you could do it here. Well, you don't have the right computer. I said, okay, Shirley, let's take a field trip. Remember those field trips in school? We took a field trip to the Galleria Mall, and we went and got this Big Mac computer, and I put it in the car, and Shirley's sitting next to me, and she is ticked off. She is not happy. She's got this long face. The phone rings. It's my son. Dad, can you talk? Yeah, what's up, Al? Dad, I just got fired. Al, that's great. I said, you were just doing time. I said, Shirley's sitting right next to me. She's doing time too. I said, now you know what you don't want to do. See, some of us don't even know what we want. I said, now you know what you don't want to do. 2 weeks later, Alex got a job with a company called Levity. Levity owns all the comedy improvs in the United States. He's now a manager. He represents Sebastian Maniscalco, Jeff Dunham, Bert Kreischer. Seriously, famous comedians all over. I could have said to my son, Alex, what are you going to do? You're going to have to move home. You're going to have to do these things. See, it's not how we react. It's how we respond that makes the big difference. Everybody keeps coming up to me and saying, oh, you're from Hollywood. Hollywood, Florida. I was in Hollywood the other day because I took my son out to dinner to see how he's doing. Saw his office. And I saw my son walk through his office at 8 o'clock at night. And there were people there working still. And my son walks over and says, what are you doing here? You can go home. I was blown away. But I was able to transform his thinking to get him to the next level. If we transform, optimize, and accelerate, we're there. And then there's my mom. My mom, I can't figure this one out. You know, I called her up the other night. I said, Mom, here's what we're going to do. What are you doing Friday night? She said, I'm not doing anything. I said, great. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to take you out to dinner. I'm going to take you to Matilda on Broadway. I got my theater tickets. I'm going to go. My mother said, you know what? I've already seen Matilda on Broadway. I think I'm just going to stay home. I couldn't get a date with my mother. It was pathetic. And then there's my daughter, Mini Me. And my daughter's something else. So most men spend a lot of time with their sons. It's natural. And women spend time with their daughters. And I decided I was going to take my daughter away on a vacation. We're going to go for a couple of weeks. And I'm OTT, over the top. So everything I do has got to be a little bit bigger, a little bit over the top. So I decided I was going to take my daughter away for a month. We're going to go to Europe right after the NSA convention in Indianapolis. I was going to take her to Chicago, to London, Paris, Rome, Florence, San Gimignano, Siena, Chianti, Madrid, Israel, and back. Pretty crazy trip. I wanted to write a book called A Dad's Guide to Traveling with a Teenage Daughter, Generation Y. Like, why would you do it? Pretty crazy. Well, sure enough, I said to her, I said, all right, we're going to go. I go to the NSA convention. I'm thinking, I got something up my sleeve right now. She doesn't know about it. I check out of the hotel one day before the convention ends. They're having the party that night. I'm going to miss the party, but I want to go back to St. Louis, get my daughter ready before we're going to leave. I get in the cab. I check out of the hotel. The minute the door on the cab closes, my phone rings. Dad, no offense. Anybody ever get the no offense line? Okay. I'm already offended. I want to hang out with my friends. And is that okay with you? I'm not going to say no to my daughter. So I gave the cab driver $5. He hadn't even left the front of the Marriott yet. I went back in. I booked my hotel room. I changed my plane again because things change. Well, I flew to St. Louis the next day, and I walked in the house. I said, all right, you ready to go? I said, great. I looked at her mom, and I said, could you do me a favor? Just take her computer. She's not taking it with her. We got to the airport. I said, you know, my cell phone's not working. Can I see your cell phone a second? Took her cell phone. I said, oh, great. It's working good. Put it in my pocket. I said, now here's the deal. You get to go to Europe with me. No cell phone, no computer. You got to talk to me. See, because my daughter would be sitting there texting all the time, tweeting, not paying attention, like a lot of our kids, right? Well, every place we went, she would pick people up. She would invite strangers out to dinner. And every night we were out till 1:30 in the morning. No questions about it. Out till 1:30 in the morning every night. Well, sure enough, we're in Florence, Italy. I walk into my hotel room, I go pick up a bag, and I throw my back out. I can't hardly walk. I said, we got dinner reservations, let's go there. We walk into the restaurant, and all they have are bar stools. I can't sit on a bar stool at the back the way it is. So I said, let's go to this restaurant, Giostra. I think it's a great restaurant. I've been there before. We walk in, we sit down, and 2 minutes later, a woman comes walking right up to me. She puts her leg on a table, she pulls her knee back, and she says, Doc, look at my knee. I got a patient in the middle of Florence there. And this is not one of the patients that you like to see. This was the proverbial pain in the neck patient. The table behind us is roaring in laughter, and my daughter starts talking to them. We find out that this guy's the biggest leather dealer, and his wife is a huge designer. My daughter invites them out. The woman looks right at my daughter and says, Doc, is this your girlfriend? My daughter goes, she's grossed out. This is my dad. Come on. Well, we're walking down the streets of Florence, 2:30 in the morning. My daughter grabs my hand and said, Dad, we make a great team. We both journaled, and when I looked at what she wrote, it was so much better than when I wrote. She has zero filter. And it became her book, called Jamie's Journey, Travels with My Dad. It went from 9 to 6 to 4 on Amazon. And on a Sunday, on Father's Day, on the Today Show, I sat on the couch with my daughter promoting her book on Father's Day. Now, that's not the end of the story. See, because my daughter also then got a scholarship, and I'm going to brag about her a little bit. She got a full scholarship to the University of Missouri Journalism School, which she's graduating this year. And then the other second scariest speech I've ever given was at the NSA convention in San Diego when my daughter and I keynoted the youth conference. And that is a wild card. And then for some of you know, there are a lot of privileges to membership in our associations. There's a lot of things that you don't know about our associations that are huge benefits. Well, one of them is Speaker Magazine. And one day I opened up Speaker Magazine and I turned to the foundation, and what I saw was my daughter Jamie Goodman had gotten the Jeannie Robertson Scholarship for writing her book and in communications. See, because the words that we have, the things that we do can make a big difference. That could be one of the legacies. And ended up right there in the NSA magazine. Well, that wasn't my intent. And a few weeks ago, I did a showcase. How many of you have ever done a showcase? So I did a showcase. I'd never done one before. It was in my backyard in Fort Lauderdale, and I decided I'm going to go do the showcase. Well, I went there with the intention of seeing 25 speakers on stage for 15 minutes and having a good time, and it was right around the block. Well, I met this one speaker. His name was Mark Lindquist. Some of you may know Mark. Mark is on the TV show Lost. He's an Air Force sergeant. And if you were at the NSA convention, you saw Mark singing the national anthem. See, Mark sings the national anthem all around the world at major sporting events and games. Well, in December, he called me up and he said, Rick, what are you doing? On December 31st, I thought, I really don't have any plans. He said, I'm going to be down in Miami, Florida. Would you like to go and be my guest at the game? And I said, sure. He said, I'm singing the national anthem. I'm going to bring in Phil Gerbishak's going to come too. Well, if you know anything about my house, it's like NSA South. I've got the Ed and Angela Robinson bedroom. People stay at my house all the time. So what I want to do, I transform my thinking. What can I do? I got to throw a party. 2 guys are coming in, throw a party. I called up every single one of my NSA friends. Ron Carr was there, Bruce Turkel, Phil Gerbishak, Mace Haroff, anybody and everybody I could bring in that was in town or around town. And the next day, we were on the field at Hard Rock Stadium. See, 2 weeks before, Elias Canaris called me up and said, Rick, could you shoot some speaker video promoting GSS? Little did I know that by transforming my thinking, optimizing my assets, and accelerating my connectivity, I would shoot a speaker video on the field before the game, right there. See, it's how we optimize our assets. It's how we transform our thinking. Now, it was just me connecting dots. I didn't say, let me go meet somebody so maybe I can end up doing this and doing that. I didn't give a pin away to say, hey, I want to be on the stage here one day. Because if we give to get, we're even. If we give expecting nothing in return, we're always ahead of the game. Well, a number of years ago, I met these guys I got to work with. As LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. The three amigos. They're kind of like Richie McCaw, Dan Carter, and Colin Meade. That's who they are. They're superstars. But there was one big problem with these guys. They played like individual superstars. They did not transform their thinking. They did not optimize their assets, and they certainly did not accelerate their connectivity. LeBron James would sometimes just sit there and pound the ball and not pass to anybody. Well, this picture was taken right before Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Everybody was smiling until we lost the game. After that game, LeBron James complained about every single person in the universe, and he blamed everybody for his loss. And then he said about the fans, they're going to go back to their miserable lives, and I'm just going to still be me doing my thing. And then he left town for 3 months. He disappeared. To me, it wasn't really a professional act. Well, the following season, he comes into practice, and they're out there practicing, and we get into the locker room, and LeBron James is complaining again. He is complaining to anybody that will listen to him complain. And, as you know, I don't have a filter. So as he's complaining, he's in the locker room, he's complaining, anybody listen, and all of a sudden I look over, and I see his shorts sitting on the bench. And I ran over, and I grabbed LeBron James' shorts, and I put his shorts on, and I almost trip on like every time, but here we go. They are so damn big. And I put them on. And I looked right at him and I said, you know what, LeBron? I said, we all put our pants on one leg at a time. I said, I've been there with the St. Louis Rams when we went from worst to first. They played like a bunch of individual superstars. And when they started to play together and they played like a team, they became the greatest show on turf. And until you do that, you're not winning anything. I got the LeBron James death stare. I looked at Udonis Haslem, who's pretty much like the enforcer there. He looked at me and it was like, and I got out of the room. I still had the shorts on. Well, they went on a tear and they started winning every single game. And they ended up winning. Ooh, it's in here. I'm trying to look for the clicker. And they ended up winning the NBA championship. But they had something called symbolic focus. And the symbolic focus was a rumor. It was a rumor about a trophy that they had. And this trophy said, together, tough, and trust, all in. And it had 16 gold notches in it. And every time they won a game, they put a gold notch in a trophy. When they had 16 gold notches, they knew they could then celebrate because they'd won the NBA championship. They weren't going to let themselves celebrate because they did the year before, and they ended up losing. Well, 2 weeks later, there's a knock at my door. And I go walk in, I open up the door, and they say, special delivery. And they have a box. And the box said, all in, 2010, together, trust. And I picked it up. I looked at the bottom of the trophy. It said they number 1 out of 4,000 made in the world. And then I looked in there. It was a card. And the card said, here's a symbol of our appreciation for your guidance and support. Hey, Doc, keep the shorts, LeBron. I'm going to tell you, he wasn't getting them back anyhow. What I'll also tell you is I understand that not every one of us can relate to a LeBron James or a Richie McCaw, a Dan Carter, and not every one of us is going to ever have the privilege of working with them. But you know what? That doesn't mean that your jobs are any less important. See, because I have a letter to prove that. A number of years ago, I did a program, over 20 years ago, almost to this day, for the future business leaders of America. High-achieving high school, college students in the country. I was doing a program on goal setting, how to get everything you want out of life. And a kid came up to me and said, I don't know why I'm here. Sometimes I think about ending it all. When I hear a 16-year-old say that, I'm looking around for counselors, teachers, couldn't find anybody. I said, sit right there, don't move. He sat right there and he listened. And I watched him, he listened. And as I was ending, I looked and I didn't see him anymore. I went back to my office and I told my staff about this and I put it in the back of my head. 6 months later, I got a letter from Winterset, Iowa. I carry this letter with me whenever I speak to college students, whenever I speak to somebody that I feel is important or a group, and you know what? There's no more important group than this one right in front of me. And the letter said, it was written on February 17th, 1998, just a little over 20 years ago. And it said, my name is Raphael Jacobo. I was a senior at Winterset, Iowa. You talked about goals, and all you had to do is focus on them, read them, take action on them. He said, well, the time has come and gone, and what I have learned will never leave me. And there was the picture of this kid. Well, sure enough, I never thought about what is the end of the story. And I was going to Dakota State University in South Dakota. It was a Sunday before Labor Day, and I said, you know what I've got to look up and see what happened to this kid. So sure enough, I Google Raphael Jacobo, Winterset, Iowa, and this is what came up. Raphael Jacobo was the first Latino to be elected to the Cedar Rapids Board of Education, and he beat the incumbent to win the election. Well, you know me. I saw the phone number. I picked up the phone on a Sunday. I haven't spoken to this kid in 20 years. I don't even know if he'll know me. I picked up the phone. I said, Raphael, it's Dr. Rick. I don't know if you remember me or anything. And there was no answer. I'd left the machine on. And I thought, oh, my God, this kid's going to think I'm a stalker. So I scanned the letter with the picture, and I sent it to him, emailed it to him. Didn't hear anything back. Well, I went out. I spoke at Dakota State University. And sure enough, on a Wednesday, I was done speaking. I was in a restaurant getting ready to be seated, and my phone rang. And I saw Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I started to panic. It was the first time I had nothing I could say. I picked up the phone. I said, hello? And he's, Dr. Goodman, I couldn't talk. Believe that one, huh? He says, Dr. Goodman, it's Raphael Jacobo. Raphael, I got to ask you a question. I've been thinking about you all these years. I take the letter that you've had and I carry it with me when I speak. I got to ask you a question. Do you even remember me? And he said, Dr. Goodman, I got to tell you something. I think about you all the time. You made a huge difference in my life, and I want to thank you. See, I know one thing. A lot of us have gotten similar letters just like that. And some of us have letters that just have not been mailed yet. But if we transform our thinking, optimize our assets, and accelerate our connectivity, we will change people's lives, because that is our charge. That's why we're here. That is our purpose. And you're all in the right place to do it. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you, Global Speakers Federation, for having me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rick. I want to tell you that you gave me that pen those years ago, and until then I was just another person in another conference. But when you gave me that pen, I thought, we can do this. Let's give it our best shot. And you encouraged me, inspired me to get on, and I'm just so grateful that you're here in New Zealand and doing the same for all of us here as well and around the world. I just want to thank you personally, and you're the man.
No, you're the man. Thank you.
Man.